Hello, hello, everyone! A very warm welcome back to another episode of 5 Men Speaking. I am your host, Sophia, and I am absolutely thrilled to be sitting here in the studio with you all today. There is something truly special about today's atmosphere, isn't there? I'm feeling incredibly energized. The sun is peeking through the clouds. My favorite lemon tea is steaming right next to my microphone, and I've pushed the windows wide open to let in that crisp, beautiful spring breeze. It feels like the perfect day to have a deep, meaningful conversation. But enough about me. How are you doing over there on the other side of the table, Paul?
Oh, Sophia, I can practically feel your energy radiating across the room. Hello to you, and a massive hello to all our fantastic listeners tuning in from every corner of the globe. To be honest, I'm feeling pretty good myself, though maybe a little less caffeinated than usual. You see, I've decided to go on a bit of a caffeine detox this week. So instead of my usual double shot espresso, I am accompanied by this giant 2-liter glass of ice cold water. It's a small goal, I know, but I'm a big believer in the idea of small goals for big health. One sip at a time, right?
I admire your willpower, Paul. I don't think I could survive the morning without my tea, but you're right, health is wealth, as they say. It's actually quite a refreshing start to the day. But anyway, let's get down to business. I was thinking this morning about how we interact with people. You know, Paul, there is one specific topic, one universal theme that seems to dominate almost every single conversation on a Monday morning. Whether you're at the office, standing in line at the grocery store, or just chatting with a neighbor over the fence, everyone asks the same thing. Can you guess what it is?
Let me think. On a Monday morning, well, it's definitely not what's the weather like, because that's for Tuesdays. If I had to put my money on it, I'd say the golden question of the week has to be, so, how was your weekend? Am I right? It's the ultimate icebreaker. It's the national question that helps us break through that invisible wall between being strangers and becoming friends.
Spot on. You hit the nail right on the head. How was your weekend is such a simple phrase, but it's the gateway to so many stories. It's how we share our lives, our little adventures, and even our clumsy mishaps. It's the front door to building a real connection with someone. And let me tell you, Paul, both you and I had some pretty unbelievable stories happen to us over the last 48 hours. I can't wait to share them with our audience.
I'm right there with you, Sophia. My weekend involved a dusty treasure and a very energetic 4-year-old, but we'll save those juicy details for in a few minutes.
Exactly. But before we dive into the mountains, the cows, the guitars, and the giant chocolate cakes, we have a tiny, tiny favor to ask our friends listening at home or on their commute.
That's right. If you enjoy our chats and if these conversations are helping you feel a little more confident with your English, please take a quick second to hit that like button right now. It might seem small to you, but it's a massive help for us here at the studio. It tells the algorithm that people love learning English with us.
And if you're new to the 5 Men Speaking family, first of all, welcome. We are so happy to have you here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We release new episodes every single week, specifically designed to help you master natural, everyday English without the stress of a textbook.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, take a deep breath, grab your own cup of tea or water, and let's get back to the main event. Sophia, I'm dying to know. I heard rumors about a train and some very stubborn farm animals. What on earth happened during your trip to the mountains?
And if you're new to the 5 Men Speaking family, first of all, welcome. We are so happy to have you here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We release new episodes every single week, specifically designed to help you master natural, everyday English without the stress of a textbook.
All right, Sophia, you've kept us in suspense long enough during the intro. I am dying to hear about your weekend. Usually, you're the type of person who loves a quiet Saturday afternoon, curled up on the sofa with a thick novel and a blanket. So, tell me, did you actually manage to leave the house this time, or was it another marathon reading session in your pajamas?
Hey, I resent that, even if it is mostly true. But no, Paul, this weekend was a complete departure from my usual routine. I decided to be a bit more adventurous. My sister Chloe and I had been planning a little getaway for weeks, so we woke up at the crack of dawn. I'm talking 5:30 a.m. to catch the earliest train heading north toward that charming little town tucked away in the mountains. You know, the one with the cobblestone streets and the mist hanging over the peaks?
Oh, I know exactly where you mean. It's breathtakingly beautiful up there. There's something so therapeutic about a train ride, isn't there? Just staring out the window, watching the city skyline slowly melt away into green fields and rolling hills. It's like a reset button for the brain. I bet it was incredibly peaceful.
It was for about 45 minutes. The train was going perfectly. I was halfway through a chapter of my book. Chloe was fast asleep with her head leaning against the window, and I was just starting to feel that deep sense of calm. But then, quite suddenly, the train began to slow down. I don't mean a normal station stop. I mean we came to a complete, grinding halt right in the middle of a massive empty field. No platform, no people, just grass as far as the eye could see.
Oh, that's usually how the first 10 minutes of a horror movie start, Sophia. Did the lights flicker? Did you hear a mysterious scratching on the roof? Please tell me you didn't have to walk 5 miles through a dark forest to find help.
No, nothing that dramatic, thank goodness. But for a second, I was genuinely worried. I thought maybe the engine had overheated or there was a technical fault on the tracks. Everyone on the train started whispering and looking at each other with that, "Are we stuck here forever?" expression. But then the intercom crackled to life and the driver's voice came on. He sounded surprisingly calm, almost like he was trying not to laugh. He said, apologies for the delay, everyone, but it seems we have a small congregation on the tracks. There are about 10 cows currently holding a meeting right in front of the train."
No way. A cow meeting? Are you serious? So you're telling me that a multi-ton, high-tech piece of machinery was defeated by a few farm animals? That is absolutely hilarious.
I kid you not, Paul. I pressed my face against the glass, and sure enough, there were 10 big, fluffy, very stubborn cows just standing there. Some were chewing grass, others were just staring blankly at the front of the train like it was waiting for it to say something. They weren't scared at all. They looked like they owned the place. We ended up sitting there for a good 15 to 20 minutes just waiting for the guests to decide it was time to move on.
That is classic. You wanted a natural escape from the city, and Mother Nature gave you exactly what you asked for. Plus, a cow party. Honestly, that sounds like a very healing way to start a trip. It forces you to slow down and realize that we aren't always in control of our schedules.
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt. Instead of getting frustrated, I just watched them. They looked so content and peaceful, it set the mood for the rest of the day. Eventually, the security team, a very tired-looking farmer and his dog, arrived to clear the path, and we finally pulled into the mountain town. And Paul, if the train ride was an adventure, the town itself was a dream.
I can imagine. Did you find any of those treasures you're always looking for? I know you can't resist a good antique shop or a hidden corner.
Oh, you know me too well. While wandering through one of the narrowest alleys, I stumbled upon this tiny lopsided bookstore. It was so old that the floorboards groaned under my feet, and the air inside smelled like vanilla, old paper, and history. It was heaven. I spent an hour in there and walked out with a beautiful vintage book on organic gardening.
Gardening. That's a new hobby for the city girl. What's the plan?
I've made a vow. This summer, I'm going to transform my tiny balcony into a mini farm. I'm starting with tomatoes. There's something about that trip, the cows, the fresh air, the old books, that made me want to get my hands dirty and grow something real.
Well, I'll be the first in line to taste your harvest. But speaking of treasures and getting your hands dirty,
I think it's time I tell you about the garage sale find of a lifetime. And the audio that sounds like the music swells with a slightly more rhythmic discovery vibe.
That is such a vivid image, Paul. 10 stubborn cows holding up a high speed train? I think I'll be smiling about that for the rest of the week. But as much as I love my bovine adventure, I've been hearing some whispers about your Saturday. Word on the street is that you didn't just spend your day running 5 kilometers in the wind. Apparently, you went treasure hunting at a local garage sale and found something truly remarkable. Is it true? Did you find the legendary pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Well, maybe not a pot of gold in the literal sense, Sophia, but to me, it feels just as valuable. You're right. After my morning run, I was feeling pretty exhausted, so I decided to take a slow, aimless walk through the neighborhood. I ended up on a quiet side street where an elderly gentleman named Mr. Thompson was holding a massive garage sale. It was one of those classic sales where everything is spread out on the driveway. Old rusty tools, stacks of cracked dinner plates, and boxes of clothes that haven't been in fashion since the 1970s.
I love those kinds of sales. You never know if you're going to find a piece of junk or a hidden masterpiece. It's like a history museum where you can actually buy the exhibits. So, what caught your eye? Was it a vintage camera? An old map?
Actually, it was tucked away in the very back corner of the garage, almost hidden behind a stack of old tires. I saw the edge of a wooden case, thick with dust and cobwebs. My curiosity got the better of me, so I crawled back there and pulled it out. When I opened the latches, my heart skipped a beat. It was an old acoustic guitar. The wood was a deep, dark mahogany, but it was covered in so much grime and fingerprints that you could barely see the grain. The strings were orange with rust, and one of them was snapped, hanging limp like a broken thread.
Oh, that sounds so sad. A beautiful instrument just forgotten in the dark? Did Mr. Thompson tell you where it came from?
He did. As I was inspecting it, he walked over and placed a hand on the case. He had this very distant, thoughtful look in his eyes. He told me, "That was my father's guitar. He bought it right after the war. He used to sit on the porch every single evening and play folk songs until the sun went down. I can still hear the sound of it if I close my eyes." He told me he'd been holding on to it for years because he couldn't bear to see it thrown away, but he didn't play himself. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "I don't want your money, son. I just want this to belong to someone who will actually play it, someone who will appreciate the music trapped inside that wood."
Oh, that is incredibly moving, Paul. I have goosebumps. It's not just a guitar at that point. It's a vessel for his father's memories. It's a piece of his soul. I'm almost afraid to ask, did you take him up on the offer?
I insisted on paying him something, of course, but he wouldn't take more than a few dollars. I carried that case home like it was made of glass. I spent the entire afternoon, hours and hours in my living room. I used a soft cloth to gently polish away decades of dust. I oiled the fretboard until the wood began to glow again. I carefully restrung it with a fresh set of silver strings. And Sophia, the moment I tuned it and struck the first chord, the sound was incredible. It was deep, resonant, and warm. It felt like the guitar was finally breathing again after being held underwater for 50 years.
That is a beautiful metaphor, Paul. It makes me realize how often we move through life in such a frantic hurry. We rush past people, we rush past objects, and we forget that everything and everyone has a story worth hearing if we just take a second to stop and listen. Your dusty guitar is a perfect reminder that the most valuable things in life aren't always the newest or the most expensive.
Exactly. It taught me a lesson in mindfulness. We spent the whole afternoon breaking the walls between the past and the present. Now, every time I practice a song on that guitar, I think of Mr. Thompson and his father on that porch. It's a connection to a stranger I'll probably never see again.
Simply wonderful. But Paul, as much as I love this poetic moment, I know there was a less poetic part of your weekend involving a very fast 4-year-old and a lot of chocolate. Should we tell the listeners about your Sunday defeat? And as we transition to the next segment, we hear the soulful guitar music fade into a playful, bouncy beat. Oh, Paul, from a soulful, dusty guitar on Saturday to, well, what I've heard was a complete disaster on Sunday, I have to say, you really know how to balance your weekends. One day you're a deep philosophical musician, and the next day you're, what exactly? A professional soccer player in the backyard?
Sigh. Professional is definitely not the word I would use, Sophia. Exhausted or defeated might be more accurate. You see, after the peaceful afternoon I spent fixing that guitar, I thought Sunday would be a nice, relaxing day to visit my parents. I was picturing a quiet afternoon in a lounge chair, reading a book and sipping some tea. But the moment I stepped out of my car, I saw a blur of blue and red running toward me at top speed. It was my 4-year-old nephew, Leo.
Oh, I know Leo. He's that little ball of lightning, isn't he? I remember you telling me he has enough energy to power a small city for a week.
Exactly. And apparently he had been waiting for Uncle Paul all morning. He didn't even say hello. He just kicked a miniature soccer ball at my shins and shouted, "Game on." So there I was in my nice Sunday clothes being dragged into the backyard for what Leo called the World Cup Finals. Now, Sophia, you know I'm a fairly fit guy. I run 5 kilometers every weekend. I thought, I'm 30 years older than this kid. I've got this.
Oh, Paul, never underestimate a 4-year-old. They don't have a stop button. I'm guessing things didn't go according to your plan.
It was a bloodbath. Leo is tiny, but he is incredibly fast and completely fearless. He kept running circles around me, shouting commentary like he was a famous sports announcer. I was panting, sweating, and trying not to trip over the garden hose, while he just kept going and going. He's like a battery that never dies. Every time I tried to take a break, he would pull on my hand and say, "One more goal, Uncle Paul, just one more." I think we played for 2 hours straight. By the end of it, I was lying flat on the grass, staring at the sky, while he was still jumping around asking if I wanted to play tag next. I have never felt so old in my entire life.
Oh, I would have paid good money to see that. The great Paul defeated by a boy who still needs help tying his shoelaces. That is priceless. But surely there was a reward at the end of all that physical labor. Your parents didn't just leave you to die on the lawn, did they?
Thank goodness no. My mother saw my tragic state from the kitchen window and decided it was time for an emergency intervention. She called us inside, and honestly, Sophia, what I saw on the dining table made every bruise and every drop of sweat worth it. There it was, sitting on a glass pedestal, my mother's legendary homemade 3-layer dark chocolate cake.
Oh, wait, did you say 3 layers? Paul, you're killing me. I haven't even had lunch yet. Describe it for me, slowly.
It was a masterpiece. The frosting was so dark and glossy, it looked like silk. Between each layer, there was this thick, rich chocolate ganache that just oozed out when she cut into it. It was still a little warm from the oven, so the chocolate was perfectly soft. We took our plates outside to the patio, and for the first time in 3 hours, the house was finally quiet because Leo's mouth was full of cake. That first bite, oh, Sophia, all the muscle aches from the soccer match, all the stress from the weekend, it all just vanished. It was pure, unadulterated bliss.
Ah, now that is what I call weekend vibes. It's the perfect ending of a story. You had your Saturday for your personal passion, the guitar, and your Sunday for the people who matter most. Family, laughter, and a giant slice of chocolate cake. I think that's the secret to a happy life, don't you? A bit of adventure, a bit of struggle, and a very sweet reward at the end.
I couldn't agree more. It's all about the balance. But now that we've shared our stories, I think it's time to find out what our listeners have been up to. I'm sure their weekends are just as interesting as ours.
And now for our new segment, the Listener Diaries. We're going to read some of excerpts from the messages you all sent us, sharing your memorable weekends.
Well, everyone, we are approaching the final stretch of today's episode. It's been a whirlwind of a conversation, from discussing the best hiking trails to debating whether pineapple actually belongs on a pizza. A debate I'm sure will rage on in the comments section forever. But before we sign off, I think it's time for our favorite segment, the next adventure. Sophia, what's on the horizon for you?
Oh, you know me, Paul. My horizon usually involves a camera lens and a very large plate of carbs. But what about you? I heard you have some back-breaking plans for the coming days?
Backbreaking is exactly the right word for it. My best friend is moving across town next week, and like a fool, or a very loyal friend, depending on how you look at it, I volunteered to help. We're talking 3 flights of stairs, a heavy oak dresser, and a couch that I'm convinced was built inside the apartment because there's no way it's fitting through the door.
Ouch, my lower back hurts just thinking about that. Please tell me you're getting more out of this than just a thank you and a sore shoulder.
Oh, absolutely. The unspoken rule of helping a friend move: the labor is free, but the celebration is mandatory. In exchange for my manual labor, I've been promised a massive, hearty pizza feast. I'm talking extra cheese, pepperoni, maybe some Italian sausage, the works.
Now that is a fair trade. There is something about moving day pizza that just tastes better than regular pizza. It's the taste of accomplishment and the fact that you don't have to lift any more boxes.
Exactly. It's the ultimate reward. But enough about my sweat and tears. What about you, Sophia? I know you're not planning on moving any furniture. What does your next adventure look like?
My plans are a bit more aesthetic. This coming weekend, I'm heading downtown to the National Gallery. They're hosting a special exhibition on wilderness photography, The Silent Giants. It features these incredible large-scale prints of mountains and forests from all over the world. I've been looking forward to it for months. I need a little visual inspiration to kickstart my own creative juices.
That sounds incredible. You've always had a great eye for that kind of stuff. But knowing you, the adventure doesn't end at the gallery doors.
You caught me. After I'm done soaking in all that nature photography, I'm heading straight to that new Italian spot that just opened up on 5th Street, L'Anima. Apparently, their chef moved here directly from Rome, and people are raving about the handmade pasta. I've already got my eye on the truffle carbonara.
Of course you do. You're a woman of refined tastes, Sophia.
Hey, I have a philosophy, Paul. Life is far too short to eat food that isn't delicious. Why settle for a mediocre sandwich when you can have a bowl of pasta that makes you feel like you're sitting in a piazza in Italy? We only get so many meals in this life. I intend to make every single one of them count.
Spoken like a true foodie. Honestly, I can't argue with that logic. Whether it's a greasy pizza after a long day of moving or a gourmet pasta dish after a day at the museum, it's those little moments of enjoyment that make the week worth it.
Precisely. It's about balance, the hard work and the high art, followed by the comfort of a good meal.
And that brings us to the end of our journey today, folks. But before we go, we want to bring you into the conversation. We've shared our upcoming plans, but we want to hear about yours, or rather, your recent ones.
That's right. We want to hear from every single one of you in the community. Our question for you today is, what did you do last weekend?
Did you go on a wild adventure? Did you stay home and finally finish that book you've been reading for 6 months? Or maybe you also helped a friend move and are currently nursing a sore back. Whatever it was, we want to know the details.
And hey, for our international listeners or those of you practicing your skills, don't be afraid to write your comments in English. Seriously, don't worry if your grammar isn't perfect or if you think you've made a small mistake. We don't care about perfect, we care about connecting. This is a safe space to practice, to share, and to be part of the family. The most important thing is that we get to hear your voice and hear your story.
Well said, Sophia. Mistakes are just stepping stones to getting better. So grab your keyboard and tell us about your weekend. And we have a little secret code for those of you who stayed with us until the very end.
Yes, if you've watched or listened all the way to this point, make sure to include the keyword weekend vibes in your comment. When we see those words, we'll know you're one of the day ones who caught the whole show. It's our little way of seeing who the true enthusiasts are.
I'll be scrolling through the comments later tonight while I'm icing my back, so I'm looking forward to reading some great stories.
And I'll check them out while I'm dreaming of my pasta. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this time with all of you today. Thank you for your energy, your time, and for being such an awesome audience.
We couldn't do this without you. Keep exploring, keep eating well, and most importantly, keep being you.
Bye, and see you next time.